Here's the first historical garden tour just for me to keep track of what's changing, what I've accomplished. I have lots of projects on the books, but it's hard to always see the improvement if you don't record it. So this is the furthest south area of the front yard, pardon the neighbor's garage. I need to take care of this pine bed to the left of that bench. I'm going to move some plants there and get rid of all that debris. It's a project that I've been putting off. This area is shaping up. I call this one the office bed because it's right outside our office window. It it's going to need some trimming, but I've put that off because I want to do it closer to spring. I've moved a few plants around here recently so that they're more visible and appreciable from the street. That plant, the green one, I can't think of the name of it at the moment. Coleus. That was kind of hiding behind this fern. And then behind the fern now is a azalea, which was hiding behind the boxwoods. So I'm just kind of moving things to places where they will look a little bit better. And then I got a new little gomphrena right here in front of that topiary shrub. And these 4 ajugas are taken from one that's behind my urn off here to the left of the window. There's a ajuga in front of that urn there, and they are just growing like gangbusters. I guess they're part of the mint family, and so that means that they like to spread. So once we get a little further into the winter, I'll also be trimming this shrub, which I don't know what it is. And I've got a dwarf myrtle over here that I broke into 2 pieces, and it was one big hot dog bun looking of a shrub, and I'm going to make it into 2 balls. I changed my porch slightly. I've got some boxwoods that I'm growing into topiaries. I added the lanterns. I need to paint this pot here on the ground, but those both are a form of buxus as well. Natal palm. And then I've added some plants in front of the myrtle. I bought a catmint that I broke into 2 bits right here. It doesn't look like much, but that should look really pretty when spring rolls around because it flowers with a lovely blue, purpley kind of spike flower. And then I've got 2 azaleas, beautiful pink azaleas in front of the myrtle, and then around them on the ground, well, I guess all the plants are on the ground, I've got a lot of pansies that I got for $1 at Lowe's from their clearance racks, and some bacopa, that's the little white flowers. And these pansies have all just really blossomed once they got out of their pots and into the ground. More bacopa here, white. I think I lost 1 bacopa, but the rest have all done really good and they're spreading. And then this one is from the pansy family. It's called calabachoa, if I'm saying that right. And I got those for $1 as well, and they're looking gorgeous. I have a arborvitae here that got a little mangy on one side, so I flipped it around to try to encourage growth on that side, and then I'm still deciding where that's going to go. I've got some little Peter Pan agapanthus on the ground here waiting to be planted, and another boxwood that I'll trim when I get to February probably. Another clearance pansy. Did I call the other ones pansies? Those were all petunias. Anyway, this one actually is a pansy, and I think I paid $3 for that from Lowe's. I have a Texas sage. It's not the Silverado. I accidentally bought one that isn't the Silverado, so it's not what I was looking for, but I'm going to give it love anyway. And it's got some moneywort. I think that was what it was called. It's a form of creeping Jenny in the bottom, underplanted, and oh, it's taking off. I'm gonna have to pull some of that out. And I gotta figure out what I'm gonna put in that little pot next to the bench on the little table. And then over here, we've got our bougainvillea, which is just starting to green up again. In front of it is an iceberg rose that has a few buds coming. And then on the ground, there's a California lilac in a black pot there that I have to find a home for. I haven't decided where that's going to go. It's a native and it looks gorgeous when it's in bloom, so I'm really eager to get that one planted. I've got a basket with some daffodils coming along. The urn back here has a geranium in it right now. That was how I bought it at an estate sale, but I know that's going to bloom red, which is going to clash with my scheme, so I'm going to take that geranium out. Possibly going to move the arborvitae over here, or one of the I have a boxwood that was over in the office bed that I think I might move here. And then down here I've got lots of paper white bulbs all over my yards as a side note, so that's done blooming. I think I'll have some freesias in that area soon. I've got a few salvias. A lot of stuff is cut back right now, and I'm hoping when everything flushes out, this whole area won't have bare spots, but I'm also trying not to plant things too close. I've got some sedum growing there. Brought in some snapdragons from the dollar store, another pot of daffodils. I put a lot of my bulbs in pots because I wasn't sure where I wanted them. I've got a verbena growing there next to the rocks that's blossoming. It's so pretty. And then a few carnations here on the ground. There's two little squatty angelonias there too. They're I just cut them back, so they're not doing anything. Then, oh, don't want to forget these guys. These boxwoods used to be on the porch in those tall rectangular planters, but they didn't have the right shape. I don't know if you can really see the shape. That one's kind of a ball, and that one's growing tall. Hey, I rhyme. And I couldn't really get them into the same shape, so I decided to replace them with two that were more similar. And I actually put them into terracotta pots that I sort of distressed. I'm not too good at that, but I gave it a try. It was fun. And then I've got a temporary terracotta pot here with a plant whose name escapes me. Some stock, which is going to be pulled out when things start to fill out, because there's probably not going to be enough room here. I've planted a lot of bulbs in this area, mostly daffodils, but there's some irises, and I planted allium. Really eager for that to come up. I hope it does bloom. Some snapdragons back here as well. They were from the dollar section too, the clearance, and they were very small, and look at how big they've gotten. I might even be able to cut some for arrangements. I've got a little bit of mondo grass. I bought one container, split it into 3. And then I've got these pots that I got at an estate sale for $5 a piece. 2 giant pots to flank my garage. And I've got a golf ball cohuhu in there with a bunch of dollar plants from Lowe's, except for this sweet potato vine. I think I paid full price for that, but I cut it into 2 and put the other piece in the other big pot. And then the other thing that's not from the dollar section is this variegated basil, which I propagated from a big plant that's in my backyard, which started as a baby. Okay, try not to move the camera around too much. Over here, it's kind of a repeat or a reflection of the pot that we just looked at. They get different amounts of sun, and I don't know how that's going to affect them in the long run. I might have to start rotating them. I tend to rotate most of the plants that are mirror plants in my garden because of my sun being so spotty. Okay, quick little look at this side. I call this one the driveway bed, and then down by the curb, that's the driveway triangle. It's looking, actually, I'm going to get a little closer. It's looking really good right now, but usually this spot, by looking good, I mean the plant's looking good. The spot looks horrible. It's got a lot of weeds and it needs some tending, but that's a status, and I almost pulled it out last year. It's been there since we moved here, and usually it looks really bad because we forget to water this little plot. There's no irrigation here, and it's kind of hard to get to with the hose. And when that plant gets dead looking, it looks awful. But it's looking so healthy right now that I think all I'm going to do is kind of tidy up the weeds and try to get a ground cover in there that's drought tolerant, and make lemonade out of my lemons. So this whole side driveway bed looks pretty ratty. It's got a lot of weeds. We've got this horrible grass. I think it's called Bermuda grass, something like that. Devil grass. It's horrible. It gets into everything. I've been pulling it out after rains because that's the easiest time to yank it. And it's going to rain hopefully in the next few days, so I'm going to get out here and try to get more of it out. These shrubs the neighbor planted, and they were growing kind of out of control because I've neglected this yard for so long. But this last few months I've cleaned them up and raised them a little because I knew that I had put a lot of lilies underneath them, and I wanted those to be able to get some sun and I wanted to be able to enjoy the foliage. Or actually, when I first trimmed these plants up, I was thinking of pulling the bulbs out altogether because we could never see them. But now that the shrubs have been raised, I guess we can see them, and maybe I'll just leave them there. They are bare naked ladies, so they'll look pretty and full of foliage for a while. That'll all die back, and then one day the flowers will shoot up. This is a little nursery of shrubs that are waiting for homes. I have a couple of crepe myrtles here that I got on clearance, so that was another score. Almost all these plants are clearance plants. And I have a plumbago here that's beautiful when it's in bloom. I have a potato bush and a really pretty pink bougainvillea. And then I actually have a couple more little shrubs on this side that need homes, and a rosemary. So this area has always been an ugly area. I'm going to replace the gravel, and I want to put little paving stones, these square ones, next to the existing walkway. These scalloped bricks were my husband's idea to widen the walkway, and they just don't have any charm at all. They do widen it, they make it easier to drag the trash cans in and out, but they're not very attractive. It's a lot of work to get this area to look attractive, and we are planning to move, so we'll see how much I actually do. This is a pot I got for like $2 at an estate sale. It had rock hard dirt in it, and I'm planning to pull the dirt out to use it for something else, but much to my surprise, it had some kind of bulb in it. I'm guessing it might even be lilies. Going into the yard now. So this area is probably been my most hardworking area that I've spent time in. I got this baker's rack a few months ago. It's been really helpful for storing my terracotta pots, and it actually worked out. At first I was just using it for storage, but I realized I can put plants on it because once they're elevated, they get some sunlight here. This area doesn't get much sunlight, but anything on the shelves does tend to get a little. So it's nice for the ivies because they don't get too much sun, but they get a little. And sometimes I'll put some nursery plants up there. It's got plastic on it because, again, we've got the rain coming and those shelves are wood, and I want to protect them. Let's see if I can step back. So I have a nice little shed to store the big stuff, and this is my potting bench, which is also covered in plastic because that wood is getting mildewed from the wet. But I don't need to protect everything. I'll probably cover my bench, my stool here in a day or so. The rain's coming maybe tomorrow. I'll probably cover it today. So this little baker's rack was meant to be a place to grow seedlings on, but I get virtually no sun here, and it's also very hard to remember to water what's here. I don't know why. I have a mental block, so I'm using it more for storage. But my big prize lately has been to get this little greenhouse shelf unit. I have another little baker's rack that I use for seedlings, but this greenhouse, the sun's not going to be good here. This little greenhouse has been great. I just have had it for a day or two, but it holds the Jiffy trays with the inserts perfectly, raises them so they get more sun, and also with the plastic I'll be able to protect the seedlings from the rain. So I've got some other makeshift shelves for seedlings. Up until now, I have really been using my garden tables for my seedlings, and it works, but they're round and the trays are not round, and it just isn't very efficient. It doesn't hold that much. These are my strawberry towers. I just recently finally filled these and got plants into them. they're set up for drip, although they're not connected to the drip yet. But I'm putting all strawberries in one of them. The other one is mostly strawberries, but I have a few other plants. I think I've got frizzy endive and Malabar spinach in that one. So this garden started with 3 raised beds that my husband built for me. Oh, I did not tidy anything, so pardon the mess. I have these 3 raised beds. 2 of them are 4x4. They're kind of not in use right now. And then the one at the end is 4x6. So right now this one has a cover crop of buckwheat in it with garlic, which I've learned was not the thing to put in there because apparently garlic needs to be in a place where you're going to stop watering it a month before you harvest it. And at present I have plans to put tomatoes in here, and I water tomatoes clear through till they die, so we'll see. I've got some kale left over here in the back. I'm probably gonna leave that there. I want to put another rectangular planter down at the end there. This middle bed here right now has peas in it. It's not in a state to receive anything else because I've got the irrigation to redo. But I understand peas fix nitrogen, so I'm leaving those. I've got some chard down here and then other tiny rectangular planter and a bunch more peas in this last raised bed. I'm having hand water those because I've disconnected the irrigation here as well. Got a little bit more kale there. My herb block garden needs some work. It was not getting hardly any sun, which I thought would be fine, but apparently wasn't really good for some of the herbs I had in there. So it is getting sun now. You can see it's all in the sun now. I trimmed the orange tree after planting that out and having all my plants fail. So this year it may get more sun. I do have more pruning to do in that orange tree because it's gotten really thick and heavy. Again, lack of maintenance. Let's go back over here. This whole area is a big work in progress. This other cinder block herb garden was meant to kind of define the corners of the garden when I had the 3 beds, but we're expanding the garden, so I'm going to be dismantling this, and I've put up an arbor that's going to stay in pretty much that spot that you see it in. So that's going to be kind of a passageway from the garden out to what we're calling the dining area. I'm calling it the dining area, the dining garden. And what's happening here, oh, it's uneven ground, is we are putting in urbanite. We're putting in broken up cement with gravel to place this garden table onto. So that's a little bit of a project. And I was tripping on this broken up ground because we're digging this up to expand the garden. It's going to go about to where all that black paint is, although that's not meant to define the edges. That's just paint from me, overspray from me, repainting some of the trellises. But basically the garden's going to extend as far as the edge of this landscape fabric. So this whole area here that I was calling Pottery Row, which is where I grew my tomatoes last year, is going to become beds, as well as this grassy area. So from this edge to where the black paint is, and then going along here to line up with the arbor. And this is going to include room for 4 new raised beds that will be about 6 feet long and about 3 feet wide. And that whole area will then be capped in the corner with the cinder block herb garden. So there'll be one on this side, and then it'll kind of reflect or match the one that's in the corner there. I don't know if when they're in place that'll be apparent, but that's what the plan is. I might have to move the one that's way back against the wall to this side of the arbor to make it more clear that they're meant to be like a little match set. In fact, that's a great idea. That just popped in my head right now. I think I'll do that. So we've got some fruit trees here. that will be moving completely out of this garden area, and they will go behind me, which I'm not going to put on this video. And this ugly will go away and will be replaced with something a little more tidy looking. Lots of work ahead. Hoping the rain will soften this whole area so that, and because of this being covered with landscape fabric, that this grass will be easier to dig up. I personally do not have the strength or the stamina to dig up a lot of this grass, but as you can see, someone's had enough strength to start loosening it. Wasn't me. So we'll see how this all goes. Here's a long shot of the service area. This is one area I've recently worked on because I tend to keep it pretty messy, which is, I don't know, it's my nature, I guess. But I'm trying to be a little more tidy. I've got to get rid of a lot of pots. It's hard for me to get rid of things when I'm not sure if I'm going to need them again, because money's always an issue. And I don't like to throw things away and then go, oh shoot, I could have used it. But this is by far way more than I could ever possibly use. I tried to put the things that I know for sure I'm going to keep into this bin here. I bought a lot of pots for very, very small amount of money from a woman a few cities over. She had painted them all to match the trim of her mobile home. And I've been slowly repainting them to not match her home. Anyway, so this whole bin is a project of, not all of it, but most of them will be painting, a painting job. And that's it. I've got a lot of seed sowing to do this weekend. I've got tree trimming I'd like to get done this weekend. And then we're going to get our rain. And after that, we'll be able to dig up grass in the backyard and weed the front driveway yard and hopefully make some progress before the heat gets really bad here, because that does bring everything to a little bit of a halt. So this is going to happen every month. I'm going to try to walk through and save one of these little videos for myself so that I have a way to see progress, remember how things looked, and hopefully when I look at them again, there'll be enough change to be significant and help me realize that there is movement forward, although I'm very aware that there is, because the photos I have of these areas from years gone by are pretty telling. So that's all.